So today we talk about culture. Culture can be described as the totality of learned and accumulated experience that is shared by a group of people and socially transmitted from one generation to the next. The totality of learned and accumulated experience that is shared by a group of people and socially transmitted from one generation to the next. So that means it's also like a smaller, more easy to kind of grasp definition could be the way we do things around here. So culture is everything about what's our culture? First of all, our culture is the American culture, mainstream American culture. And so the way we do things around here is the way we do things in America specifically, and the way it's different than, say, Canadians or French people, right? So then even within America, there are other pieces called co-cultures. So sometimes people call them subcultures, but that means lesser than. And the truth is that they coexist. So they are Americans, and they also have an identity that holds them together that's different than mainstream America. So a definition of a co-culture would be a group of people within a culture that share common values, traditions, and ways of life. These would be, for example, Native Americans would be a co-culture, Mexican Americans, any kind of nationality like Japanese Americans, Canadian Americans. It's sort of a group within a group, people that are like you, that are a little different than mainstream, but also part of the mainstream culture. It's a co-culture. Then you could also say that women and men are co-cultures within the big culture, especially women, because the main culture would be more, our culture is more of a masculinely dominated culture. So the overall culture is more the culture of American men than women. So women would be more of a co-culture. But then you could also say things like bikers. When bikers come to town for Bike Rally Weekend, they have their own way of doing things that's different than mainstream America. Some of the clothes you might wear if you're a biker are not like what the mainstream America would wear. Some other co-cultures. Different religions could be co-cultures. So especially the more extreme versions of those religions. Think what other co-cultures? Runners kind of is a co-culture, like just groups of people that have their own ways of doing things, their own terminology, their own language, right? So there's culture, there's co-culture, and that's not the same thing as race. That's what you're born with. So the co-culture is a developed way of being that's taught to you. So race has to do with physical characteristics. So for example, I had a friend in college who was Trinidadian. Her mama was from Trinidad, and her culture, the way that she was raised, was very different from the traditional African American culture, especially like Southern African American culture. So even though she was looked the same as an African American, she wasn't really exactly an African American, because her Trinidadian roots made her very different. So there was sometimes some friction between she and traditional African American people. But you would still kind of call her African American anyway. But so race and culture are different. Race is the color of your skin and your hair, and culture is the way we do things around here. So the way we learn culture is called enculturation. Enculturation. I kind of want to write that down, but I've already used my board for something else. I'll write it down in the notes. Enculturation. Enculturation is passing on the culture from one generation to the next. Let me see if I have a good definition here for you. I don't think I have it in my notes right now. But enculturation is passing on the culture from one generation to the next. So how does this get done? How did you learn your culture? Was there sort of a formal class where somebody sat you down and said, this is American culture, this is how it works, this is what we're going to do? No. You learn it from who? Who do you learn culture from? Who do you learn how to be from? Who teaches you how to be? It's your parents, it's your teachers, it's just grown-ups in general, it's your peers. You just learn from being in that culture. So we learn culture, most of us who, if we were born here, you learn it from very tiny. You don't even think about it. And if you move somewhere new, into a new culture, you pick it up from watching, mostly. Sometimes people will pull you aside and tell you something, but most of it you learn just from watching and imitating. And that's how we become Americans, is we imitate what we see other Americans doing. So the process of learning, having things passed down from generation to generation, that's enculturation. Okay. So let's stop there for a minute.